it's a pleasure. I'm happy being a part of the group.
Yes.
So I was noticing that you have multiple, talks lined up practically every week.
Yeah, so this slot is there. It has been there for quite a few months.
Yeah.
Earlier, we used to call it as the e-growth mixer,
Okay.
which was an open networking thing.
Yeah.
And then with the feedback from the people, we realized that a knowledge session is something which will be more valuable. So we started calling it at the expert talks. So every week we invite an expert like you. So last week I was the one who was speaking on business design.
Okay.
The week before that we had Mr. Paritosh Pathak who spoke on strategic business networking.
Yeah.
The week before that we had Ravi R. Kumar who spoke on stock market trading.
Okay, interesting.
And the next week we will have CA Manish Kumar who will be speaking on the importance of wills.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Absolutely. Maybe you can adjust yourself into the screen.
Yeah, is this better?
Yeah, this is better. This is better. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Welcome, Ashok ji.
Ashok ji is my uncle from Spain.
Oh, wow. So Spain now it's like under lockdown, right?
Yeah, I think his audio is still connecting.
Yeah.
Hi, uncle. Atul asked you a question. Is Spain under lockdown? You're on mute. You're on mute. Okay, I don't think he's followed it.
No worries.
It's okay. It's okay.
Now?
Yes, now you're great. Welcome, Ashokji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Nice to hear a speech from Spain. I live in a village which is 100 years backward. So it's nice for me to see what's the modern technology going on.
Awesome. 100 years backwards. That's an awesome place to be in. All of us want to go back in time.
Yes. Yeah, those were the days when everybody used to run to go to America and go everywhere to get things. But now everybody is returning, back home.
Yes.
Which is a very great feeling.
Yep. And when did you go to Spain?
Oh, that's a good question. When I've been out of India since 1972. 1972, somewhere there.
I was born then, that year.
Okay. So you have my Ashirwad.
Thank you. Ashirwad is definitely required.
Oh no, we Indians, believe me, I respect that because it's a very important thing. We have this nature, which I have lived in Europe today. Believe me, it doesn't exist.
Absolutely.
Absolutely no. It is, believe me. So that puts us back, no doubt. Okay, in Spain, people are much more polite and talk good. But like, I don't want to mention places or any kind of discrimination, but other people and all, I have seen it, no way.
Welcome, Dr. Ujjwal.
Yeah.
Thank you. I would like to see this speech now from...
Yeah, we're waiting for everyone to join in. Hi, Ujjwal. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. When I heard you were going to be here, I said, I can't miss this.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So good to see you.
I know, it's good. I've missed you. I mean, from after Feb onwards, we've not met.
Yes.
Welcome, Bhushan.
हेलो अतुल जी, हाउ आर यू, कैसे हो आप?
I'm doing good, first class.
आपके पीछे आज वो ई ग्रोथ वाला बैनर नहीं दिख रहा मेरे को।
आज मैं दूसरी लोकेशन पर हूँ।
ओके ओके ओके, नहीं वो हमेशा दिखते रहते हैं इसके लिए।
तो भूषण जी हमने प्रेजेंटेशन में डाल दिया है लोगो।
ओके ओके ओके।
Yes.
So Atul, who else will be coming?
So it's an open invitation. Let us see how many people turn up.
Okay.
So, but Atul ji, you might have got the approximate count now. How many people have registered? Like,
See, on this link, we have 517 people who registered over the past couple of months.
oops.
Okay. And between yesterday and today, there were, I think, 20 people who had registered.
Okay.
Welcome, Manish ji.
Sir,
मनीष जी नमस्कार, कैसे हो आप?
नमस्कार सर, ठीक है?
एकदम ठीक।
Welcome,
Rajesh.
Deepika ji. So it's 2 minutes past 7, and we'll wait for another 3 minutes, and then we'll introduce our speaker for the day, and we'll start with the talk. Let's respect the Indian stretchable time.
That's a good one.
A real good one. That's a real good one, Atul, because I didn't expect you to say this. I thought you were going to talk about integrity and all that. And then, good.
Honesty is the best policy.
Absolutely.
Atul has a great sense of humor.
I am building on it. I love to see smiles on the people across me. So for that, I need to crack a fast one every now and then.
That's good. That's good. Believe me, that's a good thing to do in life, is to make people smile.
Yep. So Ashokji, tell us something more about what you've been doing, and you had a decent inning.
Well, I've been a sales manager for what do you call it, jewelry and high-end watches and things like that.
Wow.
Initially, I started when I left school. I was posted to a shop in Hong Kong, which was the biggest sari shop.
Uh-huh.
So I started selling saris there. Then they opened something in what do you call it, in the Middle East, in Kuwait.
Okay.
And that was to do with mother care, to do with garments of children and pregnant women.
All right.
So that lasted, and then Mr. Saddam Hussein came and turned my life right around.
Okay.
And then I left that and I came to Spain.
All right.
Yeah, so I was here and now I have retired.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the story of my life. So, but it's been nice. It's been nice to be in Spain with the sunshine and less headaches, and islands. This island which is there, which is to the south of Spain, there are about 7 islands over here, and it's only to do with tourism. So it's very nice. You meet different people from different nationalities.
Okay.
So it's nice. It's nice. But now I'm retired, so I'm at home in 4 walls. Because my life has always been a social life with different people and talking and chatting and But now, no, now my wife is so happy. She says, I feel now I'm married because you always went to work and you came back from work, you used to yawn and go to sleep.
So now she gets to yawn and sleep, and while you're awake, is it?
But I tell you, this is my toughest life. This is my toughest job in my life.
Really nice. So today we will be speaking, rather we'll be hearing more about women, for women, about women.
Yeah.
So before Sandhya ji starts, let us speak as much as we want.
Yeah. No, I respect women. Believe me. Why? First thing, my mother is a woman.
Wow.
Wow.
Same true for me also.
I will tell you one thing. If a
Yeah,
woman, if they say, मैं तो औरत हूँ, sorry, you're asking for a very low grade. Say, मैं माँ हूँ.
absolutely.
Superb.
I will tell you that is so super because if you see naturally, a male goes out to work in those days and the mother used to be at home.
Absolutely.
What a woman can do, a man cannot even dream of doing it.
No doubt about it.
I will
Very
tell you
true.
I'll tell you one dialogue. When a woman feeds her child, she is in pain, but she puts her hand on the child's cheek and smiles at him.
Right.
Where does a man can do that? He may slap that guy's face and tell him, "Nikal bahar yahan se beta, kya lagaya idhar?"
Absolutely.
Now that way I respect women very much, believe me.
So thank you, Ashok ji, for setting the tone of the conversation today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So today we've got a very special expert, Dr. Sandhya Advani. She is a Rotarian. She has a career of around 30 years behind her. She's worked with various corporates during this journey. And along the journey, she picked up that the women needed special attention. And today she is going to be speaking on a topic which, at least for the men, many of us, it would be alien. So the topic for the day is business in the times of Me Too.
Atul, can I also add something to?
Please
Dr.
do that. Yeah, please. It'll be a pleasure. Yeah.
Okay, so apart from whatever you're saying, she's a revolutionary in her thoughts and thinking, and is really, and she is by qualification, she's an Ayurvedic doctor, and she's also a lawyer. Do you know that?
Absolutely. Not just a lawyer, a master in law.
I know that, but what I'm saying is a fantastic combination, and she's always stood for wonderful causes in her life.
So
Great. So thank you for
And
adding
something
this.
which-
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So Dr. Sandhya, the stage is all yours.
okay. Thank you so
And
much.
yep.
Atul. And I will just go ahead and share the screen. Right. So can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Anish, can you see?
Yes, yes.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you, Atul, and let's get started. Business in the times of Me Too. I'm sure all of you have heard of Me Too. ये बोलते हैं ना ये Me Too क्या है? कभी पता है तुम्हें? चलो देखते हैं. Let's see what it is. So let's know what is this Me Too story. We keep reading it in the newspapers and everywhere, but let's know where did this thing come from. So this is the story of a lady who is an actress by the name of Alyssa Milano. When she lives in the US, and one day when there was a lot of noise going on about Harvey Weinstein, who was the American film producer, a lot of women had come forward and they had complained about him. One of her friends, Alyssa's friends, by the name of Charles Clymer, he contacted her and he sent her a message saying that one of his friends has suggested if all the women who have been sexually harassed or assaulted wrote Me Too as a status, we might give people a sense of the magnitude of the problem. We'll know how many people are suffering, how many people have been victims of sexual harassment and assault. So she felt, yes, I think it's a good idea. Why don't I do that? And that will take the attention away from Harvey Weinstein. So she put out this tweet. And when she put out this tweet, she added a line. If you've been sexually harassed or assaulted, write Me Too as a reply to this tweet. And she did this and she went to sleep. Next morning, she wakes up and do you know what she saw? 55,000 people had responded to her tweet, and her tweet was trending #1 on Twitter. It goes on to show that this problem of sexual harassment is not limited to one country. It is a global phenomenon. It happens everywhere. This term Me Too was actually coined by Tarana Burke. One day, a 13-year-old girl was talking about an incident that she has experienced of sexual harassment, and Tarana Burke replied back saying, "Me too." However, this term became more popular once Alyssa Milano put this on Twitter. In India also, it has had an impact. It did not remain limited to the US. It had an impact. A lot of celebrities were involved in this. There were women who were coming forward and they were complaining about them. So it has touched the lives of Indian actors also. It still keeps touching. You keep hearing complaints that keep coming in. So let's now jump into straight the act, which is called as the Sexual Harassment of Women at the Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. Now this act is very, very commonly known as the POSH Act 2013. So when you hear somebody saying, "I'm a POSH consultant," so you understand that this person is, providing consultation for this act, because POSH stands for Prevention of Sexual Harassment. So let us first look at the title. When it says sexual harassment, it means that it only covers sexual harassment and non-sexual harassment is not covered. So if you have somebody who is bullying a person, who's scolding, who's shouting, however, it doesn't have any sexual connotation, so it will not be covered. So only sexual harassment is covered. Non-sexual harassment is not covered. Of women, it is not a gender neutral act. Only women can complain. Then at the workplace, so this covers sexual harassment of women, which happens at the workplace. So non-workplace related sexual harassment is not covered. And where will a woman complain if it's a harassment which does not happen at the workplace? We are going to see that. The act also seeks to prevent and prohibit sexual harassment and provide a forum and guidelines for redressal of sexual harassment complaints. So once you look at this title, you can get so much of information just from the title itself. Let's look at the applicability of the act. When did the act come into being? The act came into existence on the 9th of December 2013. It's applicable all over India. It's not a gender neutral act. It only protects women. It applies to organized sectors, unorganized sectors, and it applies to workplace related sexual harassment. The act acknowledges that sexual harassment is a violation of the various fundamental rights which are provided to a woman in the Constitution, and it tries to protect a woman from sexual harassment which happens at the workplace and which is a violation of the various articles. So it applies to workplace related sexual harassment cases. Now, for any act which has been created, there has to be a reason why the act is created. What is the purpose of this particular act? The purpose is to create a safe and appropriate work environment. If a man can we have others on mute, please? Thank you. So the purpose of this act is to create a safe working environment. Now, a man is able to work in a safe environment. Why is it that a woman cannot work? So it seeks to create a safe working environment. It also seeks to prevent, prohibit, and deter sexual harassment. So in case if it happens, there has to be a forum for redressal also. It advises what behavior is appropriate, what is not appropriate, what kind of behavior will you term as sexual harassment. It provides a forum, as I mentioned, and it also provides a safeguard for false complaints. Just as the act has given a weapon in the hands of a woman, if she experiences sexual harassment, she can complain. At the same time, she cannot file a false complaint. If she does that, she can also be punished. Can this act be misused? Oh yes, it can be misused. That's why it's very important that you know about it. A woman may misuse this act to malign colleagues, or seniors may want to spoil someone's name. She may have her own personal agenda. There is a promotion which is coming up. She doesn't want the other person to get promoted. She may file a false complaint. You never know. Or in case a romantic relationship has gone sour, she may seek revenge. I'm going to teach this fellow a lesson, and she may file a complaint against him. However, it's very, very important to know that implementation of this act relies heavily in the hands of the decision makers of the organization, whether to follow this law in the spirit of the law or just the letter of the law, in the sense you just do what the act says for the sake of doing, or whether you genuinely want to create a safe working environment. It all depends upon the senior management who is there at the workplace. See, these kind of things can happen. This is a news clipping. A woman was held for threatening HR person of fake rape charges. She was asking for 7 lakhs. So, I mean, these kind of incidents can happen. So it's very, very important that you know about this act. So let's look at what are the features of this act. Now, I mentioned that the complainant can only be a woman, but the harasser can be a man, it can be a woman, it can be a third gender. It's not necessary it has to be a man only. It could be any of the three. Whether the woman is young or old, it doesn't matter. Whether she's employed at the workplace or not, it doesn't matter. It is the responsibility of the employer to provide a mechanism for handling complaints. We're going to see how that happens. And as mentioned earlier, it applies to workplace related sexual harassment. Now, to understand what this act actually talks about, these are some important definitions which you should be aware of. When we talk of sexual harassment, it has to satisfy 3 criteria. Number 1, the behavior must be sexual in nature. So if the behavior is not sexual in nature, it will not constitute sexual harassment. For example, a manager is scolding a woman employee because she's made mistakes, right? He's scolding her. That behavior is non-sexual, so it will not fall under sexual harassment. Secondly, it must be unwelcome. The woman doesn't like it. And third, it must happen at the workplace. So in case where I mentioned that the manager was scolding his, lady junior, it was unwelcome to her. She didn't like it. It happened at the workplace. However, it was not sexual in nature, so it will not fall under sexual harassment. For example, another person, a man tells a woman, "Hey, you look sexy." She smiles and takes it as a compliment. So that the remark was sexual. It happened at the workplace, but it wasn't unwelcome. She liked it. She didn't mind it. So in such a case, it will not fall under sexual harassment. And so the 3 criteria that you need to keep in mind is that the behavior must be sexual in nature, it must be unwelcome, and it must happen at the workplace. If these 3 criteria are correct, they are applicable, then the act could be considered as an act of sexual harassment. Now, doesn't matter. Some people may like the comment, some people may not like the comment. So whether, some people find it welcome or some people find it unwelcome, it doesn't really matter. Or it has been happening in the past, it doesn't matter. What's important is what is it that the woman feels. If she feels it's unwelcome, it is sexual in nature, it's happening at the workplace, she can complain. Now let's look at the definition of workplace. Now when we talk of workplace, this act only applies to harassment or sexual harassment of women which happens at the workplace. So what is a workplace? Now, so many different categories of organizations will fall under the workplace. For example, a commercial establishment, a vocational institution where some people are learning some skills, educational institutions, colleges, schools, sports associations, professional organizations, doctors' clinics, lawyers' clinics, entertainment, media houses, industries, health-related, doctors' clinics, hospitals. All these will be considered as workplaces where financial activities take place. For example, banks, production, manufacturing organizations, government organizations, government companies, cooperative societies, hospitals, sports institutes, dwelling places, home. Your home is your workplace. So we're going to look at that. For a domestic servant who comes in, for her, your home is her workplace. Currently, a lot of people are working from home, so that, will also come under the definition of workplace. Extended workplace. Let's see what is extended workplaces. So during the course of her work, an employee may visit other places. For example, she goes to a different office, or she goes to a client location, she goes to a supplier's office. Well, if an incident happens during such a period, during such time, well, that would fall under sexual harassment, and because that is an extended workplace. Any place that the woman visits during the course of her employment. Also, the transportation provided by the employer. Many a times you may have BPOs where the women employee is being dropped by the company provided vehicle in the night. She's being dropped home. Now, if an incident happens with a traveler, or maybe with the driver, it will fall under the POSH Act and the woman can complain. Similarly, business travel. So if a woman is traveling to a conference and she is staying in a hotel and there is a misbehavior by her colleague, well, that would still fall under the workplace. Conferences, attending exhibitions, attending workshops, all these would fall under the definition of extended workplaces. Similarly, company sponsored entertainment or events, offsites, parties, picnics. So, you may think that, okay, this is a company picnic. It's not in the office. Even if I tease her, nothing is going to happen. Sorry, you're mistaken. If it happens, it would also be covered under the POSH Act. Plus digital workspaces, virtual meeting rooms. So for example, if you're having a online meeting with someone and you misbehave, well, that would also come under the definition of extended workplaces. Your emails, your telephone calls, messages, sending out something non-veg via a non-veg joke, or a vulgar joke via a WhatsApp message. Well, that will also come under the extended workplace, because it is digital workspaces are covered. Also, office provided accommodation or amenities like a guest house or office cafeteria, an incident which happens in the gym, which happens in the mess hostel or in the hostel, all these, or the company guest house, all these places would fall under the definition of extended workplaces. And any incident of sexual harassment which occurs in the workplace or any of the extended workplaces would be covered under the POSH Act. Let's now see who is an employee. So is it only a person who is on rolls? No, it also includes contract workers. It includes temporary workers, ad hoc workers, daily wage laborers, person who's directly employed by the organization or through a contractor, whether the principal employer where the contractor is working, whether he knows about this employee or doesn't know about this employee, it really doesn't matter. Whether the person is being paid or not, whether the person is working as a volunteer, whether there is a contract, it's an oral contract or a written contract, it doesn't matter. The act is very, very broad in scope. It seeks to cover all these people. So your management trainee, your intern, your apprentice, all these people are covered under the definition of an employee. So if any of them experience an incident of sexual harassment, well, they can complain and it will be taken up under the POSH Act. Let's now see what are the various forms of sexual harassment. How does it happen? How can someone harass? So it can happen in various ways. One of the first ones is physical contact, touching a woman inappropriately. Physical contact without her consent. A manager may have a habit of putting his arm around the shoulder of the male employees as well as female employees. Some women may be okay with it, some may not be okay with it, and they may feel uncomfortable. Well, if that is the case, they can complain. Showing pornography, sending pictures, maybe on WhatsApp or via email, any kind of sexually suggestive visual, if that is being sent, that will also fall under the definition of showing pornography. A woman can complain. Similarly, making sexually colored remarks. Hey, you look so sexy. What a hunk, what a babe. I mean, these kind of comments are sexual comments. Telling sexual jokes or stories, asking about sexual preferences, fantasies, all these will fall under making sexually colored remarks. And a woman who experiences this, feels uncomfortable about it, it's happening at the workplace, she can complain. Similarly, remarks relating to teasing a person, or teasing a woman. Hey, you're so fat, So if you keep saying that, you're so short, I mean, any kind of comment relating to a person's appearance or body, or offensive comments, Any of these kind of comments will fall under making sexually colored remarks. Similarly, demand or request for sexual favors, right? So asking somebody out who's not interested. Now, for example, Ashok tells me, Sandhya, let's go for coffee. And Sandhya says, no, I don't want to go for coffee. Ashok thinks probably she's a little busy, so let me just ask her again. And again, after 2 days, Ashok asks me, come on, Sandhya, let's go for coffee or let's go for movie. And I said, no, I'm sorry, I don't want to do it. If Ashok keeps persisting, Sandhya can go ahead and file a complaint because Sandhya doesn't like it. She feels uncomfortable. Similarly, abuse of authority. Saying, for example, a manager may say, listen, let's go out for a movie. And this woman employee is feeling very pressured because she knows if she doesn't do it, she will, have some kind of a retaliation coming back. She doesn't want to lose her job. So the person is actually abusing his authority. नौकरी चाहिए ना, काम करना है ना, तो मेरी बात सुननी होगी, चलो let's go here. So what is the person doing? He's abusing his authority. Similarly, falsely accusing somebody behind closed doors for sexual favors. Let me give you an example of that. A man is in his cabin, and a housekeeping lady is coming. She's cleaning the room. Now he catches hold of her hand. She pushes his hand away. She just frees her hand and says, what are you doing? I'm going to tell everyone that you're holding my hand. And he says, if you do that, I'm going to tell everyone you've stolen money from the wallet which is on the table. So what is he actually doing? He's falsely accusing her behind closed doors. So all these would come under the category of demand or request for sexual favors. Now you may have some other ways in which a person can harass. Maybe staring at a woman, sending out a flying kiss, winking at a woman, blocking her way. So any of these ways, they will make a woman feel uncomfortable. Making sexual gestures with the hands or through the body movements, standing too close, stalking a woman, all these will come under physical, verbal, or non-verbal conduct of a sexual nature. So these are the various forms of sexual harassment. Now, in the work from home scenarios, do you think sexual harassment has reduced? No, it's not. It may have increased. And how does it happen? I mean, you may question, how will somebody harass a woman is at home? How do you think she's going to get harassed? Well, it happens. Let me tell you how it happens. This lady is, she is a sales professional, and every week she has a call with a manager, and he insists on adjusting the camera in such a manner that the upper half of her body is visible, and she feels extremely uncomfortable. He keeps looking at her, and she just doesn't like it. I mean, this is one of the ways in which you can have sexual harassment happening in a virtual manner. Or you are talking to someone, one of your colleagues, he's not wearing a shirt. I mean, are you going to like it? You're not going to like it. Or he's wearing a t-shirt which has got something suggestive written on it. Or there's a poster at the back which has got some suggestive message, and it makes the woman uncomfortable because she's looking at him. She's also seeing what is written on the back. Using inappropriate emojis in chats, very, very common. The person is saying something professional and the other person sends out a picture with 3 hearts, or, as if the person is hugging. I mean, those are inappropriate, responses. So you can't be doing these kind of things. Another way in which it can happen, anytime asking for a video call, any video meeting, which makes it difficult for a woman to balance her home and work responsibilities, unwelcome calls in the middle of a night, after meeting, after office hours, they want to have a Zoom party, they want the woman to be a part of it. Here, the manager is calling her up at 11 in the night, a video chat at 11 in the night. I mean, you have to respect the working hours for a woman. And he's calling her up just to have a chat with her, a video chat with her. What he wanted to discuss was nothing urgent at all. It was something which could have been taken care of over an email itself. So these are the various ways in which virtual sexual harassment can happen. Now, there are some other factors which, if they exist, along with sexual behavior would amount to sexual harassment. For example, promise of preferential treatment. Hey, Sujata, let's go out. We'll go out for a movie. After that, we'll sit down and do your appraisal. So, which means if Sujata will go out with him, he'll give her a good appraisal. If Sujata refuses to go out with him, he will not give her a good appraisal. Or the threat could be something about the present employment, wherein maybe a confirmation is pending. So this employee is pressurized. She's not able to say anything. She's just tolerating everything. Or it could be something relating to future employment. For example, you have an HR manager who has interviewed 5 candidates. Out of that, he tells one girl, hey, I liked your CV and I think you're pretty promising, but before I send your name ahead, I need to know you better. So let's do something. Let's meet up in the evening for a couple of drinks. So the indication is very clear. If you don't meet up, I'm not sending your name ahead. So these are the various ways in which it can happen. Now, this is a very interesting point, intent versus impact. Say, for example, you've sent out a message to a girl. I'm saying it's a man or a woman who has sent out a sexual message to a girl who is a colleague. She doesn't like it and she feels uncomfortable and she is filing a complaint. You come back and say, hey, hang on. I had absolutely no intention of sending it to you. I was supposed to send it to someone else. I was supposed to send it to Amit. You are Amita. By mistake, I sent it to you. Well, that defense will not hold good. Whether he intended to send it to her or did not. The impact is that the woman felt uncomfortable, and as such, she can go ahead and she can file a complaint. And so the harasser cannot get away saying that I had absolutely no intention to harass. If that was allowed, everybody would come forward and say the same thing. So the law doesn't allow that. It's the impact that matters. Now that we've understood what are the different forms, let's look at what are the different types. Did you even know that there are different types of sexual harassment? Let's look at that. So there are 2 types. One is called as a quid pro quo, and the other one is called as a hostile environment. So let's look at quid pro quo. Quid pro quo is a Latin term which means this for that. You do this for me, I'll do that for you. It's like an exchange, like a barter. So the example that I gave you, promise for preferential treatment for in exchange of sexual favors. You do this for me, let's go out, let's go for a movie, let's go away for a weekend. I'll give you a good appraisal, I'll confirm you. I mean, the one that we talked about a couple of minutes back. So promise for favorable treatment in exchange for sexual favors, a threat of unfavorable treatment because the person is refusing the favors, implied or explicit threat about the present or the future employment of the person, which is what I talked about. So this would generally happen when there is a power matrix. Somebody with more power demands sexual favors from someone with less power. He is in a position to influence the person. And the person feels afraid that if she does not comply with the demands, she could face repercussions at the workplace. Repercussions may be not being put on, important projects, scolding her all the time. I mean, there could be any kind of repercussion or retaliation. See, this is an example of quid pro quo. This was reported in the news in Mumbai Mirror. The woman says reporting manager asked for sex in return for favors. Incidentally, I know this gentleman. And this has happened in Vikhroli. So the man was asking for favors, sexual favors. He helped to get admission for this lady's child, and then he was asking for favors. So this is how it actually happens, and this has been reported in the newspaper. Let me give you a case study on this. This has happened with a company called as Nokia. This girl is a 26-year-old software programmer. She was found to have committed suicide, and she had left a 6-page note. In that, she had mentioned, save working women from humiliation. And the note also said that she was taking this extreme step because of harassment at the workplace. She was living alone. Her managers were harassing her and they were forcing her to quit the job. And she said that I've always done well, but they say that my performance is bad. And they used to tell me that I don't entertain the boys in the team, and that is the reason why they were not promoting her. They were forcing her to quit. And she says, I just can't bear this torture. And she committed suicide. So this is a real story, real case which has happened. So it can have an impact on the woman in this particular manner. Let's see what is a hostile environment. So here, the harassment may not be directed at a particular person as such, but the atmosphere is, the work environment is hostile. For example, somebody is all the time scolding a woman, criticizing her, blaming her, humiliating her. There are posters, pornographic posters put up on the softboard. Somebody is making statements damaging a person's reputation. Oh, this girl, she's always going around with different guys. Now, whether it is true or not, what is the person doing? He's damaging her reputation. Or, you may have a new girl who has come in and everybody is whistling and passing remarks and things like that. Well, that's hostile environment. Removing areas of responsibility unjustifiably. Somebody has been given 15 things to do. And all of a sudden you start taking away a couple of things little by little, without give any reason, without giving anything else to the person to handle. What's going to happen? The person will feel, why is it happening to me? And will start losing confidence. That's a hostile environment. Exclusion from group activities without a valid reason. Everybody has gone for a picnic. This person has been asked to stay back in office and work. See, if there is a justifiable reason, it's understandable. But if it's not justifiable, you deliberately ask the person to do this, regularly you keep doing it, well, you're creating what is called as a hostile environment. Let's look at this case. This case is about Standard Chartered Bank. Now, this lady had joined the bank's trade union and she says, my manager is unhappy with me because I've joined the bank's trade union. The women gossip about me, and the men misbehave by touching me inappropriately. She's complained to HR, she's complained to the CEO, she's been asked to work on holidays. She has to stay back late and work, and the men are insulting her, they are passing lewd remarks. And she's not getting any remedy out of it. She's complained to HR, she's complained to the CEO. They say, you want to go ahead, you don't like the job, quit. Because they wanted her to quit because she's joined the bank's trade union. So this is what has happened. And because she was not getting any relief at her workplace, she went and filed a complaint with the police. Now remember, a woman who is experiencing sexual harassment at her workplace has two forums available to her. One, she can file a complaint under the POSH Act with the internal committee, or she also has an option to file a complaint with the police under the Indian Penal Code. So she can do either, she can do both. The choice is with the woman. So she had gone and finally complained to the police, and the police had arrested all the 11 accused. Now, once you've learned all these things, what are the various forms, what are the various types, I'm sure you're going to say everything sounds like sexual, everything is sexual harassment. What is not sexual harassment? Please tell us, because otherwise we are scared to talk to women. Well, when you follow up on work absences, somebody is remained absent, you're asking the person, what happened, why were you absent? Well, that's not sexual harassment. Requiring performance to job, like the job requires a particular standard and quality of work. If the person is not performing that way, you are absolutely authorized to ask, why is it not up to mark? Exercise of management rights. Somebody is taken leave. You have 5 people in the team. 3 people have already taken leave. Now the 4th girl comes in. Sir, even I want leave. Now you have a genuine reason for not granting her leave. This girl cannot go and say that you're discriminating against me and you're harassing me, you've given leave to the others, you've not given leave to me. Well, it's a normal exercise of management rights. You're absolutely justified in not giving it to her. Similarly, work-related stress, asking somebody to stay back to finish her work. If there is a genuine reason, the person stays back and finishes, it's absolutely fine. Providing constructive feedback about a person's mistake is absolutely okay. Behavior that is welcome. Remember, we said, what is sexual harassment? Behavior that is not welcome, which is unwelcome. So remember the comment that we talked about, hey, you look sexy. She doesn't mind it. It's okay with it. She's okay with it. So that means that is not sexual harassment or a consensual relationship between two people. That's absolutely fine. That's not harassment. Workplace related arguments with no sexual undertones, physical touch without sexual undertones is not sexual harassment. Now we've understood all this. In case if you have any questions, we will take it up towards the end. Now let's see what is it that the woman can do. Can she do something? What action can she take? So remember, in a complaint, there are two parties. The victim, the lady who has been harassed. She could be a woman of any age, remember? She's called as the aggrieved woman. She's the person who has experienced the harassment. She could be a client also who is visiting the office. So she can also be an aggrieved woman. Remember, she could be a volunteer, she could be a contract worker, she could be an intern. Now, who is a respondent? The person who has harassed or who is alleged to have harassed. The woman is filing a complaint and saying that this person is the harasser. That person is called as a respondent. It could be a man, it could be a woman. Even a woman can be a respondent. She could be passing remarks about the girl, or it could be somebody from the third gender. This could also be a visitor. So how do you lodge a complaint? What do you do? How do you lodge a complaint? So you send a letter. If you're sending a physical letter, you need to give 6 copies. But most organizations now have an email. So it may be posh@soandsocompany.com or ic@soandsocompany.com, and you can send out an email to them, right? So that then the IC will look at it. So as I mentioned earlier, there are 2 forums available. One is with the internal committee. Second is with the police under the IPC. Incidentally, you may not be aware of, there is also a window available in the Ministry of Women and Child Development. This window is called as the She Box. So any woman who is experiencing sexual harassment, she can go to that ministry website, go to She Box, and she can file a complaint. It could be somebody from the public sector, it could be somebody from the private sector. So if you see, this is the link. You go to the ministry website and you can see this. It has got 2 tabs. One is register your complaint, one is view status of your complaint. So if you click on register your complaint, it opens up to a window which is like this: government employees or private employees. So if you are a private employee, you will click on private employees. It opens up to a page like this wherein you can put in all your details. Now the advantage of this is, once this has been done, the ministry follows up with your organization and keeps a track as to what is happening about the complaint. So, sometimes an organization may try to hush it up or something. If it has been put in the She Box, the ministry follows up, so the company cannot hush it up. Now, who can complain, right? We talked about the lady who has suffered, the victim, she can complain. But what if this woman is physically incapacitated? She has got a fracture. Now she cannot send out a complaint. Can someone else send out a complaint on her behalf? Yes. Either her relative, her friend, her co-worker can send out a complaint, but the lady needs to give her consent. She needs to give a written consent. So for example, if Aditi has been harassed, but Aditi has a fracture now. So Jyoti knows about this. Jyoti can take Aditi's consent and she can file the complaint. Same way, if a person is mentally incapacitated, so who can file a complaint? The lady cannot file it. So either her relative can provide the consent, or the friend, or an educator, or the psychiatrist, or a psychologist, or the guardian can provide the consent, or anyone who knows about this incident can file a complaint with the permission and consent of any of those, either the relative, friend, educator, psychiatrist, or a guardian. Any of them can provide the consent, because this lady herself is mentally incapacitated. She cannot, under the Contract Act, she cannot sign. I mean, when she is undergoing, when she is, going through, insanity or any kind of a mental condition. What if the woman dies before she files a complaint? So who can file a complaint? A legal heir can file a complaint. So if a lady is dead, another friend knows about it, the lady's husband is a legal heir, he can provide consent, and the other person can file the complaint. If for any reason this woman is not able to file a complaint, probably because she doesn't know how to read or write, then the IC will provide help to her to file the complaint. Now that we've understood what the woman has to do, let's check as to within how much time should she file the complaint? What is the timeline that the law gives her? If there is one incident of sexual harassment, the law gives her 3 months time after the incident to file the complaint. So within 3 months, she should file the complaint. Now, what if the incidents have happened multiple times? A man harassed her in Jan, he harassed her in Feb, he harassed her in April, again harassed her in June. So when will the 3 months period start off? It starts off from the period of from the last incident. So in this case, from the last incident happened in June. So the lady gets 3 months from June in which to file a complaint. Also, for example, you have a woman who's had an incident, she's gone to a native place, she had a mental breakdown, she comes back after a period of 4 months and she says, now I want to file a complaint. Now, if she is able to show that there were circumstances beyond her control, which did not allow her to file a complaint, in such case, the internal committee may grant her another 3 months time in which to file a complaint. But this is at the discretion of the committee. Only if the committee is convinced that she genuinely did not get a chance to file a complaint for various reasons, they may give her the 3 months extra. What will the complaint contain? What should it contain? What happened? Where did it happen? When did it happen? What is the name of the harasser? Is there a relationship between the parties? Is it a client and a or a person employed or an employee, or is it a senior manager and a junior? Is it a co-worker? This is primarily to know what is the relationship between the parties. Is it a vendor? And along with these details, she also needs to give the evidence. What are the list of witnesses? So she must have some evidence. Otherwise, it cannot just go without evidence. It becomes her word against his word. She will say, he harassed me. He says, I didn't harass her. So there's no evidence. So even for the IC, they need to have some evidence, some details on which they can take action. What rights does a complainant have? I mean, if she complains, what is going to happen? She gets an environment where she can talk freely. The IC is, empathetic. They will listen to her. Her identity is kept confidential, extremely important. The name is not leaked out. So a woman who experiences this, she should feel comforted that her identity will not be leaked out. Everything is kept extremely confidential when a woman files a complaint. In case she wants to file an FIR, she gets support to file an FIR. The organization will provide support to her to file a first information report with the police. Now, once she's filed a complaint, what happens? A copy of the complaint and evidence is sent to the respondent, that is the harasser. The harasser prepares a reply and he sends it back to the committee, just like how you would have in a court of law. Now, the reply that the internal committee gets from the respondent, whatever he has to say, whatever evidence he wants to show, that is given to this lady. And in case if she is not happy with the decision of the committee, she has a right to file an appeal. Similarly, what are the rights of a respondent? I mean, just because he's a respondent, it doesn't mean he is guilty. He could be innocent. It could be a false complaint. So what are his rights? He gets a copy of all the documents which the complainant has given. The internal committee will hear him in an unbiased manner, will give him a patient hearing, will hear his side of the story. His identity is kept confidential, extremely important. His name is not leaked out. And in case if he is not happy with the decision of the committee, he can go ahead and he can file an appeal. Now we've understood this entire mechanism, what is sexual harassment, the forms, the types, what action can the complainant take, what are the timelines in which she can file a complaint, what does she have to include in it. All those things we have understood. Let's see now the complaint has come to the internal committee. Now, what is the internal committee? So every organization which has got 10 employees or more has to have a committee in place which handles the complaints of sexual harassment. This committee is called as an internal committee. Now, who are the people in the internal committee? The minimum number is 4 people should be there. One is a lady who is a presiding officer. She is generally a woman at a senior level. Then you have two other employees who are a part of the committee. They are called as IC members. And you also have a person who is from outside, an external member, an independent member. That person could be from an NGO which works for the causes of women, or it could be somebody who's familiar with handling cases of sexual harassment. The committee, the tenure of the committee is 3 years, and at least 50% of them have to be women. What does it do? It handles complaints which come to it. It is created under the provisions of the POSH Act. It has the powers of a civil court. So it's very, very important. They have those powers. Whatever they decide becomes final unless it is appealed against, and the employer has to follow this. So what does it do? It receives the complaints, it will look into it, whether it is complete or not. It will conduct an inquiry. After conducting an inquiry, it will talk to the witnesses, etc. And then it will submit its findings. What is it that they have seen? Is the offense proved or is it not proved? It will check that. And if the offense is proved, they will prescribe some punishment. The punishment is called as a recommendation. And it maintains strict confidentiality throughout the process. The act makes it it is very strict. The proceedings are kept very confidential. Names of the parties are not leaked out. If ever anyone does it, action is taken and there's a penalty levied on the person. It also, once a decision is made, once the IC has reached a decision as to what is the punishment to be given, it will coordinate with the employer and ensure that the decision is carried out. It helps in drafting the annual report. At the end of the year, the employer has to send out a report, so it provides all the information. And primarily, it is an investigating body. Now, in a criminal complaint, the police is the investigating body. Who is the person who decides the complaint? Is the magistrate or a judge who will decide. The IC is an investigating authority as well as a decision-making authority. So it does both. It has a dual role. Now you may ask, remember I said if an organization has got 10 employees, it has to have an IC. What if the organization has got less than 10 employees? In such a case, the woman can file a complaint with the local committee, which is, the details are provided by the government. So the government nominates certain people who form the local committee. So if an organization has got less than 10 employees, it is filed before the local committee. Or if the complaint is against the employer, say a partnership firm, a partner is misbehaving. Now the IC is not going to do justice because that person is the employer. So then in such a case, the woman will file a complaint with the local committee. Let's see now what happens when a complaint is filed. I mentioned the timelines. Within 3 months, a complaint is filed. The IC will send a copy to the respondent within 7 days. The respondent replies back within 10 days time. Now, the IC, that is the internal committee, gets 3 months time in which to handle the complaint. And once the inquiry is over, within 10 days, it will send it out. The copy of the report, they will send it out to the complainant, to the respondent, to the employer. And the employer gets 60 days time. Within 60 days, he must take action. Whatever recommendation has been made, he must take action within 60 days. If any of the parties are not happy with the decision, they have 90 days time in which to file an appeal. Now imagine a woman has filed a complaint. Next day she goes to the work, to her office. What is the atmosphere going to be like? It's going to be like a Mahabharat, Cold War happening. Everybody's tense. Both the parties are there. And the woman herself is uncomfortable. So can she ask for some relief? Yes, she can. So she can either ask for transfer, she can ask for leave up to 3 months, and the IC may grant her leave up to 3 months. This is over and above her paid leave. And in case it's a manager who is going to do an appraisal or performance, evaluation, well, he is not allowed to do it. Purpose is to keep both the parties apart. You may ask one person to work from home for 1 month. After that, you may ask the respondent to work from home for 1 month. The purpose is to keep both the parties apart till the time the inquiry is over. What if someone doesn't turn up? If either the complainant or the respondent doesn't come for the inquiry, the IC will send them a second notice. And despite that, if they don't do it, then IC will terminate the proceedings. Either they will terminate that, there is no evidence or something, they may terminate or close the complaint, or if there is enough evidence and the respondent is not turning up, they may pass an ex parte order. And whatever is the order will have to be obeyed by the organization. Now, let's, take an example. Remember that incident I said, wherein the person was supposed to send a joke. It was a non-veg joke or a sexually explicit joke. He was supposed to send it to his friend Amit. By mistake, he sent it to Amita. Now, Amita has complained. Now, Amit comes and tells this girl, so not Amit, sorry, the man who has sent it out, he comes and tells Amita and saying, listen, hang on, I'm not a person like this. It was genuinely a mistake and I'm really sorry. I'm willing to give you a letter of apology. Let's just settle the matter. So Amita thinks, yeah, I think this guy is genuine. I mean, he genuinely made a mistake. So she's willing to settle the matter. If she's willing to settle the matter, and provided the person gives a written apology, then the complaint is closed. Both the parties will sign a document saying that the complaint has been closed because the matter has been settled. There may be some cases where the IC may not allow settlement. If the person is giving money, if money is money is being exchanged, I'll give you a voucher for 5,000 rupees, Amazon voucher for 5,000 rupees. Why don't you withdraw the complaint? If IC gets to know about it, they will not allow this. Or if the offense is of a serious nature, they may not allow it. Or if the lady has not requested that I want to settle the matter, she is not requested, then the IC will not allow conciliation. As I mentioned, if the matter is settled, a document is prepared, both of them sign, and the case is closed. If the settlement doesn't happen, then the IC will go ahead and conduct an inquiry. Or if a person has agreed, say he has agreed to give a letter of apology and not do it again, he's given a letter, but he's still doing it again, then in that case, IC will go ahead and they will go ahead with the inquiry. Now, if it's an outsider, then the IC will forward the complaint to the police within 7 days, because it's not a person from the same organization. Or if it's a client company, there was a conference, a client's representative has come, he has misbehaved with your employee. So then IC will forward the complaint to the internal committee of the client's company, because they are the ones who will conduct an inquiry. Tomorrow, if they find that this person is guilty, they will be the ones who will be able to punish the person. Now the inquiry has happened. What is the punishment? So now once the inquiry is over, if it is proved that yes, this person is guilty, the person is punished. If it is not proved, then obviously there is no action which takes place. So, or if the complaint is found to be false or a malicious complaint, then no action is taken against the respondent, but action is taken against the complainant who has filed a false complaint. Remember one thing, just because a woman is not able to prove, maybe due to lack of evidence, it does not mean that it is a false complaint. So what is the punishment that the Act provides? A written apology. Now this will depend upon the seriousness of the offense. So the IC internal committee may prescribe, ask the person to give a written apology, may ask HR to issue a warning, withhold promotion. So the person's promotion is withheld for maybe 1 year, 2 years, depending on the seriousness. Withhold pay rise or increments, termination from service, may ask the person to go for counseling, may ask the person to go for community service. There may also be situations where the complainant has spent money, she has gone for medical treatment, it has impacted her quite a lot, she's been going for treatment, she will still have to keep going. Various circumstances. IC may also grant financial penalty, may ask the person to pay a compensation to the woman. And on what parameters will the IC decide upon the compensation? What is the mental trauma that the woman suffered? Whether there was a loss of career opportunity, there was a project where she was supposed to go, she would have done very well. She was not able to go for the project. Whether did she incur any medical expenses? what is the status of the respondent, whether he is at a senior level, he is at a junior level. So if he's at a senior level, they will look at what is his salary. Accordingly, they will decide on the penalty, financial penalty. If it's a person at the junior level, they'll see what is his salary and decide upon the compensation. Whether the money should be paid as a lump sum or it should be paid in installments, IC will decide about all this. So remember, there is always a possibility that the IC may grant a compensation to the woman. What if someone files a false complaint? So if a witness has given false evidence, forged documents, so then IC will take action against the witness. If the complainant has filed a false complaint or has given false documents or made false statements, then IC will take action against the complainant. Remember, once the inquiry was over, the IC had 10 days time to prepare a report. The report is sent to the employer, to both the parties, the complainant and the respondent. The employer gets 60 days time in which to implement the report. And the IC, in case if any of the parties are not happy, they can file an appeal within 90 days of receiving the report. Are you aware that sexual harassment is also punishable under the Indian Penal Code? Section 354A, the physical contact. Remember, demand or request for sexual favors, showing pornography. If the person goes to the police station and files the complaint, the person can get rigorous imprisonment for a term which extend to 3 years or fine or both. So it's not just the financial. If the woman goes to the police and she files a complaint, FIR, and the person is found guilty, so for physical contact, demand or request for sexual favors or showing pornography, punishment is rigorous imprisonment for a term of 3 years or fine or both. If only remarks have been made, then punishment for 1 year, rigorous or simple imprisonment for a period of 1 year, or fine or both. This is also possible. What is the responsibility of an employer? A lot of you may be having your own companies. What is it that you need to do? You need to have a posh policy in place. You need to have a committee in place, put up posters for zero tolerance for sexual harassment. You need to conduct trainings for employees, train the committee to handle the complaints in a proper manner. You also have to monitor compliance, ensure that there is an external member in the committee. The committee is equipped, provided with all the facilities for handling the complaint, provide assistance to a woman to file if she wants to go to the police. So all this is the responsibility of an employer. So the reports which are generally filed are filed in the month of Jan for the period Jan to December. So generally by 31st of Jan, the next year, the reports are filed. What is the punishment if you are non-compliant? If you don't have a committee in place, you don't file your reports, you don't follow the act, provisions of the act, for the first offense, the penalty is up to 50,000 rupees. You repeat the same offense, the penalty can be double. And if it keeps happening, then it can also lead to cancellation of the business license. So you will have to shut shop if you don't follow compliance with the POSH Act. One case I would like to mention here, this is Medanta Hospital. The court levied a penalty of 25 lakhs to be paid to the complainant. This is another case, which is a very recent case. This is 29 December 2020. The court asked the Loyola College to pay 64 lakhs to the complainant. So its non-compliance can be extremely expensive. How do you keep yourself safe? Don't mix personal and professional lives. Keep things purely professional. Avoid dating somebody from the office. Behave in an appropriate manner. For heaven's sake, don't use words like honey and babe and all. Somebody may not like it. Don't keep staring. Don't pass negative remarks about the other person or the co-worker's gender, or women are like this. They're all brainless. You can't talk like that. Anila is pretty. She will do a good job in handling clients. I mean, this is a sexually colored remark. So you can't be talking like that. What precautions do you take? Difficult conversations, particularly relating to appraisals and all. Ensure you have someone present with you. Somebody from HR is present. If a person's performance is not good, ensure you have documentation which is there, which is maintained. Data, contracted employees' data is maintained. It is updated on a regular basis. The contracts have got various clauses which are there. Visitor management is handled properly. Remember, it's the employer's duty to have a safe working environment. What if you have a visitor who comes and who signs his name in the register, puts a mobile number, misbehaves with a woman employee and walks off? Now you are asked to provide the details. You find that the name is false and the mobile number is switched off. What are you going to do? Right? So that's why all these things need to be taken care of in a proper manner. In case if supposing an employee has to stay back late, take calls, let her work from home. Right? And if someone complains to you, take it seriously. Take it up with HR, take it up with the committee. Guide the person. If you don't know, get guidance from somewhere else. But do not neglect it or do not ignore it. Some more precautions. Don't remark about your co-worker's appearance or figure, or figure, oh, she's got a lovely figure. I mean, don't talk such stuff. Right? Don't demean others. Don't brag about your social life or dating habits and all that stuff, particularly with women employees who are your co-workers. Oh, your presentation is as sexy as you are. I mean, you can't be talking such stuff. Or you can't say, I don't want to hire women. They take too many leaves. All the time they're busy with their brains don't work. They're busy with shopping. I mean, you can't be talking such stuff. If you want to compliment somebody's work, compliment the work. Do not have to, or if you want to even say compliment a woman, oh, you're looking really pretty. I mean, there's nothing wrong saying that. When you want to have a conversation, team bonding, stick to generic topics, maybe sports or movies or restaurants or travel. So take care of all these things. That's it. So to come to an end, the best thermometer to the progress of a nation is its treatment of its women. And there is no chance of welfare of the world unless the condition of women is improved. It's not possible for a bird to fly on one wing. So each of us have to resolve to take efforts to create safe working environments for all, not just women, but for men as well as people from the third gender. With this, we come to the end of today's session. Thank you so much. And I hope you've learned something. There was a learning in whatever has been taught.
Can we have some question answers round from the madam with your kind permission?
Yeah, sure, please go ahead.
Yeah, so first of all, my sincere apology because network is not working, so my video is off.
Okay.
So my question is, what if someone proposes in the environment? See, maybe I'm liking a girl in my environment. Example.
Yeah.
At a workplace, and I'm asking her. I mean, I propose her for marriage, maybe.
Yeah.
So will that be also considered as?
So that's an excellent question. So you may tell her once. If she replies back to you, it's fine. If she doesn't reply back to you, you may probably, approach her through someone else if that works. Maybe approach the parents. That would be a better way to do it rather than,
Yeah, but that will not be considered as HA. I mean SH, right?
Yeah. But if you keep pestering her, if she says clearly, she says no, and you keep pestering her, yes, it will be considered as SH. So you can't ask her respectfully once, it's fine. She says yes or no, whatever it is, it's fine. Otherwise, the best option is to go via the formal route, approach the parents and speak to them. That's the safer way to do it rather than, keeping on asking the girl.
Okay. Is there the same kind of laws available for men as well? Because there are chances.
Question. I love the question. I'll tell you why.
Because there is not always a woman, right? So it can be a male as well.
Because that is a question which most of the time the men ask me, "Hamara kya hoga?" Right? So generally, a lot of organizations are gender neutral, and an organization may, if a man is experiencing sexual harassment, he may file a complaint, but that complaint is handled by a disciplinary authority which is created under the code of conduct. So an organization may have a code of conduct policy, and in that it would be included that if a man experiences or a person from the third gender experiences sexual harassment, well, that person can complain, and the complaint will be handled by a different body that is maybe called as a grievance redressal cell or a disciplinary body, and that will get handled under the code of conduct. So that is the solution for that.
Okay, madam. Thank you, madam.
Welcome.
Ma'am, I have one question.
Sure.
Yeah. Question is that as you have said, in the committee, one person should be external, outside person.
Correct.
Agree. Suppose that I, Manish Kumar, I am the consultant of ABC Private Limited. As a suppose that I am the business consultant. So whether I can be a member of that committee or not as a outsider, whether
Okay.
consultant is allowed or not.
Okay, so I'll give you the answer for that. Now, there are two criteria for a person to qualify as an external member. One, if the person is a part of an NGO which works for the causes of women, that is one, or it is a person who has experience in handling complaints of sexual harassment. So if you have either of these qualifications, then you could qualify, otherwise you will not qualify.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome. Any other question?
Yeah, I have a scenario. Say somebody is an insurance agent
Correct,
and she's going to a client's place
correct.
and the client misbehaves.
She can
So-
file a complaint because remember extended workplaces?
Right.
It is going to a client location. It is in the course of her employment. Visit to this person is in the course of her employment. And if the person misbehaves, she can complain.
Whom will she complain?
She will complain to her organization, give a complaint to her IC. Now, if the client is from a company, then the IC will forward it to the committee of the other company. That is the internal committee of the respondent's company. If it's an outsider or maybe, not connected, it's not a client. If it's an outsider, then it goes to the police. But if it's a client, there is a relationship with the client, it will be handled by the committee of the client's company.
But an insurance agent is like an independent business owner,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
She's the
okay,
company. She's the company.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So she herself, she can approach the internal committee of the client, or if supposing that person is also an individual, maybe proprietorship form, then she can file a complaint with the police station.
Okay, the police acts, the two acts.
Yeah. Under 354A.
Okay. Fair enough. So I think this was an awesome session. In the normal routine, we would never ever come across this. So thank you for taking time out.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I hope there was a learning from this.
Yeah, so there is a learning to maintain safe distance.
Additional
Where to
social
draw the
distancing.
line? Where to draw the line? That's the learning.
It can be additional social distancing in this pandemics.
Absolutely.
True. Right?
Dr. Sandhya.
Thank you so much.
But there is an interesting piece. Okay, see what is happening is over the years, we have started becoming more casual with the way we speak.
True.
To give you an example, there was this song by in which Karishma Kapoor was there. Sexy, 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 mujhe log bole. At that point in time, it was so socially unacceptable that they had to change the lyrics. In today's world, this is a normal English word. See, over the period of time, the acceptability itself has changed.
Absolutely.
And this is a social thing. I'm not talking from gender perspective.
Right. I understand.
And there was a time where the swear words were a domain of the men. Today we get better and more sophisticated swear words from the other side. Right. And for the first time, men have come under threat, as Bhujan was just saying.
Yeah. It's quite common because things have become so competitive. Just like a man is ambitious, a woman is also very ambitious. She wants to go ahead.
And on top of it, more often, I won't say, I would not have any data around it, but very often this would have not the right intentions. You were talking about some intention somewhere,
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
that the man he sent and it was not supposed to go to the woman, it was supposed to go to the man and all that stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? But many times it is filed with malified intentions.
Absolutely. That's why very important to know the act,
Yeah.
so that you're cautious.
Because especially in the government space,
Yeah.
if you have ever undergone what is it called, a process, after that means once there is a even if you are declared buried from it, but in your ACR it is mentioned that you were under trial, over.
Yeah.
The entire career goes for a toss.
Yeah. But this is supposed to be kept confidential, you know. You can't even put it in that person's file. It is kept separate altogether. If another company also will call and ask, the IC is not supposed to reveal the information. IC will only reveal the information if the court is asking for information or the police is asking for information to conduct the inquiry. Only then, otherwise, it is not supposed to be revealed.
So, okay, so that brings another interesting piece. So this does not come under the preview of the RTI Act.
No, no. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think so, because it is supposed to be kept confidential. Only two places, when the court is asking or the police is asking for. Otherwise, it will not be revealed.
Fair enough. Yeah. Rakesh ji, you were asking something.
Hello.
Yes. Go ahead.
I would like to ask, whatever the situation is there, each and every company has a HR department, human resources and development. Why the company head or board deciding they should have a very, very serious training to the HR that will be more beautiful barrier inside the HR system? I think, can you do something more constructive to do work with the HR heads? And there they can access that guidelines, suggestions, tips. Otherwise, it will not take the time. Just to mention that the 60 days, 90 days, complaint is there, and then system become more, I would like to say, lengthy process. The instant actions are very important. Otherwise, what is happening in that the time frame, the whole situation become diluted, and many times it gives the threat also, and that because of the threat also, ladies don't come forward. That's why I would like to share you whatever the system you have developed and you are persevering that. Why is it possible to empower the HR and special section wise, whatever the way you want to train, and you can train them, their in-house team, then it will be more effective and more. This is my suggestion, because
I'll answer you, sir. Now, the IC, that is the internal committee, is formed by the people who are a part of the IC are they are employees of the company, right? That is one. Many a time, somebody from HR is always there as a part of the committee. So instead of having only one person, they may take somebody who is from business to bring in a different perspective. You may have, the minimum number is 4, you may have 6 people, you may have 8 people. Now, all these people are trained. They are trained in complaint handling. What are the legal principles they need to follow? What are the steps they need to follow? All of them are trained. Now, a practical example where you are mentioning that, a woman is feeling uncomfortable. Well, the law provides her with an option of requesting for interim relief. She may say, okay, I want to get transferred, or I would like to go on leave, or I would like to work from home. The IC is authorized to do that for her. That is one. Secondly, remember, just because a man's name has been provided, it does not mean he is guilty. The IC will speak to the complainant, will speak to the respondent, will speak to the witnesses, talk to them. What is the process? How one handles it. So we will talk to the complainant, understand in detail what is it. take down her statement. Then we will call the other person, ask him, take down his statement, check what evidence is there. Is there any documentary evidence? Call the witnesses, talk to each of them. Once all the witness statements are obtained, then these witness statements are shared with both the parties. Do you want to cross-examine any of them? So in case if supposing one of them wants to cross-examine a particular witness, that cross-examination is carried out. Once this entire thing is done, before IC comes to a finding and a conclusion, both parties are again called and said, okay, these were the incidents that were given. This is what is our finding. This one is proved. This we have evidence to show that you are guilty. So each of them is given an opportunity. If at that last minute also he has got some additional evidence, he is allowed to provide. Now all this process takes time. You know, just in courts, of course, it takes a very long time, but the law provides a period of 90 days within which to close this whole thing. You can't just punish somebody like that. It's a question of people's lives. It's a question of their careers. You have to do the due diligence and then take a decision. So all this, it cannot happen instantly. There is a process which needs to be followed, and it has to be fair, because justice must not only be done, but must be seen to be done.
Okay, the screening is the more important, that you want to say that step by step, whole things
Yes,
should become in a black and white, and then the black and white will create the more impact. Okay, ma'am. Thank you very much.
An example? Can I just give you an example? I am handling a particular complaint. Now, from 11 incidents, we found that this person is probably guilty of 3 incidents. Before we are at the last stage where we shared with both the parties that, okay, this is what we have come across. These 3 incidents appear that you are guilty. Do you have anything more to say? He produced additional evidence. Not just that, he insisted that you please talk to this witness because he knows a lot of information. He was very close to this girl. So we called this witness and we talked to him. He said this girl has filed a false complaint. She has been instigated to file a false complaint. So at that last stage where you feel that the whole thing is already over, almost over, you may have a witness who comes forth and provides additional testimony. So you have to respect the wishes of the respondent, that he has said, okay, you should talk to this person, see the evidence that he has provided. He has been able to provide the evidence. Now we are evaluating how much is true, how much is not true. So all this process takes time. Today, we cannot punish the man. He could lose his job. He's been working in an organization for say 15 years. He's got family, he's got kids. You cannot just treat it lightly. You have to give it the due weightage and do a thorough job before you take a decision.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I hope that answers your question, sir.
Ma'am, you answer my questions. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Awesome. Anybody else? Any more questions? All right. So, Dr. Sir, maybe you could share your coordinates, how people can reach out to you.
Yeah. So, can I just share the screen? Has got my.
Yeah, please do that.
Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yeah.
An email ID is there.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, you could take a screenshot or something like that. You can have it with you.
Perfect.
Right.
All right. So thanks a lot. It was an awesome session. I'm sure our viewers, both on Facebook as well as on Zoom, have benefited a lot from it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Atul. And it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Within that 1 hour, I tried to give you a crash course on POSH. And I hope you learned something.
Yeah, I think these out of syllabus subjects, we should keep on cultivating them, because life or business is so diverse and it is becoming more and more complicated every day.
True.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. We'll be meeting next week, and our speaker next week is Mr. CA Manish Kumar, who will be speaking on the importance of wills.
Wonderful.
So how do you start planning for succession? Okay. And the week after, our speaker is going to be Mr. Rakesh Jain, who will be speaking on various aspects of family managed businesses. So like this, we keep on bringing experts to you who come and speak to you on various aspects of running your business. All right.
Thank you
See
so
you
much.
next week, same time, same place.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Shubhratri. Shubhratri.
Bye.